Hey, I'm going to shift over a little bit
Yeah.
to almost the first part of your life story
Yeah.
here with post MBA, and that is family. And
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the challenges, particularly that women face,
Mm-hmm.
is that again, you've got this career ambition,
Yep.
you've got this wonderful husband and a wonderful marriage, and you're moving forward with your life, and suddenly you've got a couple little ones coming along, and now how do you juggle
Yeah.
everything, and how do you manage this all?
Yeah.
And it's this superwoman kind of challenge that many of our
Mm-hmm.
women graduates seem to face. And
Yeah.
and what counsel do you
Yeah.
have, and as specific as you're comfortable being on
Yeah.
how you manage bumps in the road or just challenges and work-life balance? And I know
Mm-hmm.
that's not even probably the way to frame it as
Yeah.
work-life balance, but just how do you make it work?
Yeah. So, I'm a work in progress. So I do not have this figured out 100%. But I think I figure it out a little bit better as time goes on. And to be honest, if COVID has presented one thing in life, right, it's perspective and perspective and priorities. And now everything is here. Work is
Yeah.
here, home is here, it's all here. So the need to do that actually was exponentially higher because there's a risk that there's no separation between the two. That's one of the reasons I always thought I would be terrible at working from home, because I was like, well, I just would never be able to separate them. I would just be working, and then I would just keep working, and then I would just keep working, or vice versa. I'd prioritize the kids and not have time to work. And COVID has kind of forced us into the situation where we just had to figure it out. So I don't presume to have the answers here, but I can give the couple of things that I have done and that I have learned from women who have been mentors of mine. And probably the first suggestion or recommendation I would give is for women to have women mentors that look like them, in life circumstance, in race, in culture, and, in a variety of aspects of their life, because the mom group is a group, and we are a tribe, and we have to help each other get through some of these things. And sometimes other women have been through the things a step ahead of you. And so you could use some advice. And so one, I would say mentorship has been a huge ally for me in managing through areas that were all new to me when I became a mom, because I had never had this other aspect that I had to prioritize and that competed with my career. In such a way. So the couple of things that I've done, and this has helped me in being a leader as well in an organization that has moms on my team, right? Because part of
Mhm.
part of what I have learned is the way I act is the way my team responds, and the way, if I'm working 24 hours a day and sending emails 24 hours a day, they feel like they need to respond to emails 24 hours a day, right? So there is this reality that, okay, I probably need to act the way I want my team to feel. So I need to figure this out, and I need to probably figure this out quickly. So I am one of those people that I work well at night. I'm in meetings a lot during the day. So I do get back on my computer, and I don't mind it. It's not an area that concerns me. It gives me peace that I know I don't have to get to everything before 5 o'clock. I can address it later. So there's a lot of, and it's so much of this goes back to communication and transparency. So I share that with my team. Hey guys, hey, I am a night owl. I work at night. I don't expect people to be responding at that time, but that's really the only time I'm able to get through email. So, chances are you're going to get a couple emails from me at night. Like, don't worry about them, address them in the morning, right? So there's this recognition that, hey, this is kind of my life, and this is what works well for me, and don't feel like you have to adjust to it. So
Mhm.
there's one aspect there. The other is kind of early in my career, I had decided, like, once I had kids, I decided that I have to have and I didn't get this figured out at first. I figured this out in time. There has to be a time where I'm off, from work. Like, there has to be a period of time, because for me, it's very easy to always be on. My emails on my phone. It's now on my watch.
Yeah.
Like birds show up at my
Follows you
house with
everywhere.
messages. Yeah, like I can always be on. And it's so easy to just always be on my phone because I like to be up to date and I like to be in the know. So now like at 5:30, I'm offline and I'm not on my phone. I'm not on my anything between 5:30 and 8:30 when my kids are asleep. Like unless it's an emergency, like you're probably not going to hear from me. And I've shared that with my teams. I shared that with my boss. Like it wasn't always just when I was a leader I did that. I did that before when I had kind of a more structured reporting team. And so there was this period of time that I had to just disconnect from work and focus on my kids and my family. Because if I didn't do that, what was happening is I felt like I wasn't balanced ever. Like I wasn't giving 100% at work because I was thinking of all the things I should be doing. And I wasn't giving 100% to my family because I was thinking of the stuff I should be doing at work. So with that little bit of separation, there was a little more focus, and that focus allowed me the chance to show up better when I was showing up for work or for home or whatever that alternate was.
Sure.
So that was one. The second, and I think this has come with time and experience. Like I think I wouldn't have ever been comfortable doing this earlier in my career. But again, I've had the luxury of having leaders that have been very transparent. And I had a boss that would always say like, all right, my kid's recital is now, like, I got to go. I'll be back in a couple hours. And I was always like, how does she do it? Like she just she's able to just go and she prioritizes and she shares and she doesn't care. And she still seems to be moving up through the organization. She still seems to be successful. And I took from that, and I value that in that I do prioritize my family when my family needs to be prioritized. And I'm honest about it. I don't make up a reason of going to the doctor. I tell my team like, hey, I got parent teacher conferences. Like I got to go, like my kid's sick. I'm kind of offline today. And I don't harbor the guilt anymore. I did when I first had kids. I did. And there was this constant feeling that I was letting somebody down. One of the two.
Always. It was
always
either letting the family down, letting your work colleagues down. We hear this so much, Adeela, of I walk around feeling guilty about everything.
Everything.
Just pick the topic of the day or of the hour.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so it was my dad who actually said to me one day, because I was kind of going through this moment of like, I'm just like, I don't know how to do it, like with these deadlines, and my kids were sick at the time. And my dad said to me, and it's, again, some of the best things I've heard is, you're just not that important. And I was like, wait, what? It says like, your work will be fine if you're not there. And your kids will be fine if you're not there for a few hours, right? Like, and this.
Somehow they both manage.
They both manage. And it was like, wait, really? Like, are you sure? And there was intrinsically built into this sense of guilt was the self-importance that like, if I wasn't there, the wheels on the bus would fall off. And it takes a maternity leave, right, to realize like, oh, the wheels didn't fall off. Like, in fact, it kept moving pretty successfully, right? And then it took me being on a work trip when my kids were sick to realize like, okay, like they survived it. Like, it's okay. And in time now, I've come to realize like, yeah, I'm important and I'm valuable, but I'm not that important. Like things are not going to blow up if I don't, I'm not there in that moment all the time. And so it's afforded me a little bit of perspective to be able to disconnect when I need to. And it's not always the same. Balance to me is a really hard thing because it's not always the same. Sometimes I need to prioritize work. Sometimes I need to prioritize home, right? Every day of the week is different, and it matters what's happening in my life and that day in that moment. And to know that like everybody will be okay. Like, I'm not curing cancer here. So it's not like I'm selling bags, I'm not curing cancer. So I think it's okay. And there's a little bit, and again, I think, I want to tell moms and women that just do that and you'll be fine. And it's just not that easy. Right. And I'm again, still a work in progress, but
right.
I can say that in time, you will just realize that things will function fine without you. And you have to prioritize what's important to you at the time, and everything else will be okay. And if it's not going to be okay, that's where you should spend your time, and that's where you should focus. And it's just something that you have to live through, I think, to realize, because it's really hard to understand unless you've gone through it and not been able to balance it.
Have you gotten better over time?
I have. And
so you've internalized this. And kind of counsel that you really do believe in.
Yeah. And I do, like, I really do. And for me, the harder part was not kids, it was work. I had a much harder time disconnecting from work than I did disconnect, because when I'm with my kids, they don't let me disconnect from them, right? They're like on top of me. So like they make themselves a priority all of the time. But from work, it was really hard because that's always how I defined myself up until I became a mom. Like I was a strong professional working woman, and I prided so much of my identity was built on being this like, successful woman in the workplace. And all of a sudden now that wasn't how I define success. And it all of a sudden wasn't the only thing important to me. It's still important. It's just not the only thing that's important to me. And I think I have now like come to realize that I'm just as valuable and I'm just as meaningful to my team when I'm able to fit the other stuff in too. So like I work out in the morning, and like my team knows like before 9:00, like chances are I'm going to be like working out. So, unless it's critical, don't put an 8 a.m. meeting on my calendar. And I have to do that to stay sane. So there's just things I think you have to build in, and you have to have the confidence in yourself to do it, because there is this guilt that like, well, if I tell my team that, they'll think I'm not like committed, or they'll think I'm not, or my boss will think I'm not committed.
Yeah. Adeela, is that workout, that exercise time, it seems like that's special to you, what you were just saying, excuse me, and that's your time.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? It's up until this point in the conversation, it's been, when I'm home, I'm home. When I'm at work, I've got to be at work. But I was wondering, and you've, I think, kind of addressed it. There's also a time for just you.
Yeah. And I think there's very few moms that will say they do that enough, right? And I'm probably one of them, but I have the fortune of having a husband that's home and able to support me. So support us and support the family. Not every, single moms, for example, don't have that. So maybe don't have the luxury of me time. But it is so important for mental health. It is so important, whatever it is. And for me, it's, that exercise.
I want to be clear, by support, you mean, he can run the bases for you and keep the kids, from killing one another and hurting the dog, or chasing the cat around for that couple of hours for you to get to the gym and have your time. So it sounds like the two of you also have a good relationship of give and take and balance.
And I remember, and it was in our wedding vows, that, we'll always support each other and put each other's professional and personal choices first as well. And I think that's so important in making just life decisions in general, whether it's friends or husband or whatever, is that you're surrounding yourself with people who recognize what's important to you. And are able to help you achieve the things that are important to you as well. And for me, it wasn't always exercise, because that's relatively recent. Maybe it was like for a walk, or maybe it was talking to my parents, or, there was always some way that I needed a little bit of time that I wasn't with my kids and I wasn't with my husband, and I was kind of doing something that just was for me. And like now it has become, it's like a strict time in the schedule that's focused. And you know what, for type A personalities like that, I live by a schedule. It's important that I quite literally on my schedule block out on my calendar, and everybody can see it, workout time, right? So nobody's booking over that because it's already booked. And same with my afternoon.
Consciously make time 100%. On the calendar for you.
Because if it wasn't there, I guarantee you I would get 8 a.m. meetings. There's no doubt about it. And then that same evening time, like it's blocked on my calendar, like kids, and now, we have to pick up the kids from school. And so that time gets blocked. And whatever it is, I think we now live in a world, more so now than probably ever, where those two things are just more intertwined than they've ever been before. And setting boundaries and being able to share what those things are to others and openly is super important. And part of that is picking a culture and working in a culture that allows you to do that, and not every culture is. And to be honest, when I was in the financial industry, part of the reason I left that industry was because I didn't think I would ever be able to do this. And it wasn't where I saw like, I don't know how I will be a mom in this culture, and I don't know how I will balance it. So, find a career, find an industry where you can do what's important to you, and that looks different for everybody. But whatever that is for you, because otherwise you're going to be miserable, and you will never be able to show up at 100% for any part of that life.
Yeah. Right.
And I think, it's so much easier said than done. And I get it. And it sounds almost like patronizing to say, like, just figure it out. But it's, it's not.
I think so. It came up 2 or 3 times in this discussion of I'm a work in progress.
Yeah.
And I think that what that tells me is, hey, do the best you can, but don't be too hard on yourself.
Here. Oh, yeah.
And that was something internal that I'm taking away from this for counsel and advice. But the second thing also was early on, which is very clinical and technical, is let people know kind of, here's how I work.
Yep.
And here's my boundaries. And, if you get emails from me at 10 o'clock at night, I don't expect you to jump up out of bed or stop watching a movie or interrupt dinner, et cetera, to respond to me. Because that can make your team kind of neurotic.
Yeah,
and totally. I think that gives them peace as well. It helps them manage their full life as well. So that's good leadership, I think, Adeela.
And I think it becomes more important as you're a leader. It's actually easier to do when you don't have people relying on you to set the culture. But as you grow and people are taking cues from you, the same way I took cues from my bosses in my career, take cues from you, the old adage that like never leave before your boss, we have to debunk that, that's not like, that is not reality, because everybody's life is different and we all work a little differently and we all function a little differently. And I think, I think if there's like an overarching message here is exactly what you said, like be a little forgiving to yourself, right? And to others, but to yourself more than any. I think women, so many times we make the mistake of like harping on our flaws or harping on the things that we're not doing as well. Like lead with your strengths, because that's what has gotten you to this point, right? So lead with your strengths and sure, continue to nurture the things that need to get better, because we all have that. And have the humility to know that you are a work in progress, and that's okay. And you're not going to get everything right all of the time. And absolutely, that's like one of my guiding principles. I'm also a firm believer of like everything happens for a reason, and, find the good in situations if you can, because it is so easy to harp in all the things that go wrong and all the challenges. I mean, God, if this last 2 years hasn't proven anything, there's going to be a lot of struggles that come, right? And hurdles and obstacles. And I am generally a positive person, but I do try to find the good in situations because it is overwhelming to think other ways.